Hello everyone, welcome back to the Detour podcast, where we talk all things related to the topic of unconventional success and upcomings. I'm your host, Gary Fan, a community college alumnus with aspirations of becoming a world-changing business owner. This episode marks the third episode within season 2 of the podcast. Today, I'm joined with a hotelier, serial entrepreneur, future consultant at BCG, Armaan Goyal. Welcome to the podcast, Armaan. I'm so excited to have you here today. If you don't mind, give us a brief introduction about who you are to the viewers out there, where do you call home, and what your future career paths are.
Thank you very much, Gary. That introduction is so dynamic. I need to copy your elevator pitch. But like Gary mentioned, my name is Armaan. I am a senior in the hotel school, also studying information science. Serial entrepreneur is a very nice term, loosely defined, but sure. And like Gary said, I'm going to be joining BCG in San Francisco once I graduate from Cornell. Who am I? Interesting question. I'm an international student. I call India home, specifically a city in the south of India called Chennai. I was born and raised in Chennai in a very, I want to say, comfortable home environment, given how drastic the difference is in a place like India. Yeah. So I was born and raised all of 18 years in Chennai. Never lived anywhere else, and then I moved to Ithaca for college.
Very different, huh?
Very, very different. Career goals, that's the more interesting piece of the question. Like I mentioned already, I'll be joining BCG. Obviously, I hope no one at BCG is listening to this, but I'm not planning on really, climbing up the corporate ladder at BCG. I'm joining consulting the same reason why a lot of other people choose to join consulting. It's a good kickstart to anything you want to do in the business realm. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you want to be a world-changing business owner. I want to be a world-changing impact investor. So Gotcha. Hopefully, when both of us are, let's say 10 or 15 years later, when both of us are hopefully achieving our goals, if you want to start a business, I want to be the guide to enable you to scale your business from 1x to 10x. Yeah. And that's mostly on the social impact side of things. So long answer short, I want to be an activist impact investor in India. Yeah. By the time I'm 35 or 40 years old. That's my goal.
That's beautiful. That's crazy. Well, kind of get like a better sense of who you were growing up. Do you think there are certain things within like your childhood that kind of shaped you to who you are today and what you want to pursue?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, especially the way you worded it, because here was my childhood. I would describe my childhood as easy. And what I mean by that is, for anyone who knows about India or many developing countries, there's this almost drastic two-faced inequality, right? Yeah. You're either fortunate enough to be born in an environment that is financially stable and you're protected from a lot of, let's say dangerous things, or you're not. Mm-hmm. And my coin flip happened to be, let's say, lucky, right? I was born into a family that was financially stable. I was able to go to a good school in India, study in the Indian system in an English medium school, which is why I'm able to speak English well. I had an amazing, ambitious, conscientious group of friends that I found at the school. They're still my closest friends in the world, and they inspire me every day. But why I say my childhood was easy was because, like I mentioned, I didn't maybe have exposure to a lot of the hardship that the vast majority of my country goes through on a daily basis.
What is that hardship, if you don't mind sharing?
Absolutely. So that hardship is trying to understand where your next meal comes from. Yeah. Trying to understand what your place is in society. Trying to, if you're born into, let's say, a lower middle class or lower class family, trying to climb, let's say, the socioeconomic ladder is very hard in India. Why? It's because things like social casteism and caste discrimination still exist. Mm-hmm. Not many Indians or not many people say that outright, but the truth is it does. And you know why I know that? It's because if you ask the 18-year-old version of myself, I wouldn't know much of anything. And I had this one day experience that basically changed my life. And I think that's what you were alluding to, is that in your childhood, was there anything memorable that changed or shaped you?
Yeah.
That I would say, if anything, it was that one day. So what happened was, I was 18 years old. I had just graduated from high school, right? And I was lucky enough, I got into Cornell, and I was, let's say, chilling.
Yeah.
And my mom is, like I mentioned, my mom actually does some social impact investing work. And she's my hero. A lot of my family members are my heroes, my mom especially. And at that time in my life, she was working on, she had invested in 4 villages outside my city, and she was basically revamping those villages. She was helping standardize their sanitation systems, their education systems, their food sustainability protocol, everything that you can think of that is extremely important to us surviving. She was working on those things. And one day she said, Armaan, I mean, you graduated, you aren't doing much, you know, you got into a good college, so why don't you come with me and figure out sort of, why don't you just come with me to the villages and see what's up?
Yeah.
And I was open to it, absolutely. I said, let's go. So she took me to 2 of the villages that day, and my mind was opened in a lot of ways, because, you know, being raised a certain way in the realm of society that I was raised in, I was used to a lot of things that I took for granted. And that one day going to those villages reminded me of everything that I take for granted in a very short span of time. And it shocked me. I saw kids, or I heard about kids that were addicted to alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
Because their family, so they didn't have a father figure, and their mothers were pretty much working all day. They were the breadwinners. And so the kids, anywhere from 2 to 10 years old, would be drinking alcohol, doing drugs in villages. I saw schools that were mostly male students. Why? It's not because females didn't want to study. It's because there was no sufficient sanitary protocols within these schools and no bathrooms. And so for girls who were going through puberty and basically had, you know, periods and all of that, they found it so inconvenient to go to school because there was no sanitation protocol that they didn't go to school and they would stay home. Those are 2 examples out of 10 that I can claim I saw that day.
Yeah.
And what I realized is, gosh, I am protected from so much. And as an 18-year-old, you know, it's funny hearing that you know nothing about your own country, or of it, the majority of your own country. So that day I decided I wanted to help my mom. She said, so I asked her, what do you need the most help with? And she said, why don't you help me with like recycling and sanitation? That's what led to me working on the recycling startup with my co-founder, with my friend. That was the thing that kicked it off. So I know that was a really long-winded response, but if there's anything that shaped my life, it was that day going to those villages, speaking to those people with my mom.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, that's crazy how at 18 years old, you know, that experience kind of just shaped like your whole entire future in a sense. So kind of piggybacking off of that, why are you kind of going through consulting and not just pursuing straight up that like recycling startup that you were doing, or doing something more like within the social impact space to help your country?
That is a very, very good question. The reason is this. Even though I would say I'm pretty sensitive and I think I have a high enough EQ. I'm very like emotionally driven with the decisions I make. I'm also pragmatic. I tend to Google and look up statistics a lot. It's unhealthy, but one of the things I did was I asked my mom, how do I make the most impact in the social sphere in India? Because that I knew I wanted to do. She said, Armaan, believe it or not, there's like a lot of social entrepreneurs in India. There's a lot of them out there, and they're really, really smart people. They have good ideas. They've worked with villagers their whole lives. And there's this movement or uprising about trying to help India and trying to help, fix some of those social issues that exist. What doesn't exist, the gap that hasn't been filled yet in India, is that of an impact investor who not only pours money in, but is able to understand exactly how to scale startups, like I mentioned, from 1x to 10x. So Armaan, what do you want to do? Do you want to, and both are equally noble or reasonable or good, do you want to come up with an idea and scale impact that way through your own idea, something you own?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to help like a lot of social entrepreneurs scale their ideas and, have each of them have each of their impacts grow?
Yeah.
And both are equally attractive to me. I decided that in my head, looking at how I could be of use as one person, I thought the latter suggestion, the alternative, would lead to more impact in the long term. If I can help 20 social entrepreneurs scale their businesses from 1x to 10x, that helps 20 times 10x people, right? And although I'd love to work on my social startup like I did in the past, and maybe that'll still happen between the activist investor and the consulting career gap. Maybe it'll happen, hopefully it will. I know by the time I'm close to having a family and having a stable sort of career, that's what I want to do, which is scale businesses, scale social businesses.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can speak on behalf of the viewers, but we're all in support of you, Armaan. So can't wait to see it happen. But kind of deviating from, I guess, career-oriented things, I guess a bigger question is, how do you think like coming to Cornell has like changed your experience, like being here at Cornell University away from like your hometown, like having this opportunity here, what does that really mean to you?
That's a good question. So I'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who goes to college, Cornell or otherwise, in my opinion, should look to do two things. And I'm answering the question by making it more analogical. One is deepen your knowledge base, and two is broaden your thought horizon. I know those are both abstract, so I'll go into each. What I mean by deepen your knowledge base is that a place like Cornell is basically objectively the most diverse place per household. Like per square inch is the most diverse in terms of thought, knowledge, skills, abilities. And so if you're someone who finds yourself in a place like that, soak up as much as you can as quickly as you can. And by doing that, you'll deepen your knowledge base. And I don't mean just within the four walls of the classroom. I mean work on exposing yourself to expertise from professors, from friends, from dining hall employees, from anyone who's willing to teach you about anything. Because if you just think about it pragmatically, like I said, there's no other fixed area that will teach you as much as a university will.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by deepening your knowledge base. Now, what I mean by the second half, which is broadening your thought horizon, that's something that's, again, more abstract. My goal when I came to Cornell was I wanted to learn how to be articulate and how to basically grow my network of people. And so, one of the cool things about the U.S. system of education that I found, because I never studied in any sort of international or U.S.-based education system, was that it does really well at making you articulate because it makes you think really deeply about certain subjects, case studies, philosophy, anything of that sort, and then it makes you put down those thoughts onto paper or type those thoughts out.
Yeah.
And although it seems sort of simple and straightforward, that does so much for your ability to grow your vocabulary, to be articulate, and to communicate your thoughts. That is simply the most important skill anyone can have in any realm, in any business or non-business role. The ability to be articulate and then communicate those thoughts effectively is the single most important skill you can have. And so how you can get that skill is by broadening your thoughts, right? Thinking more, thinking deeply about things. And so if you come to Cornell or any college, what you should be focusing is on growing your network, doing anything that grows your network. Like you are hosting this podcast, which is like and I was thinking about this the other day when you approached me. It is such a unique, cool, dope way to speak to, I don't want to say influential because I'm just patting myself on the back, which I don't want to do that. Seniors on campus, people maybe you didn't have direct connections with, now you have those connections. In 1 or 20 years' time, if you hit me up on email, I will always do my best to help you. And regardless of whether we help each other or not, I'd like to believe that you learn one or two things from me and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's broadening your thought horizon. That's one way to do it. And people have all sorts of unique ways: clubs, research projects, labs. Any way to broaden your thought horizon, do it, and don't say no to those opportunities. If you can do those two things, number one is deepen your knowledge base and broaden your thought horizon, you're good.
Yeah. Do you think it's different coming to like an Ivy League and doing that as opposed to maybe like a state school and doing that, or like a community college?
Yeah. So there's like a diplomatic way to answer this and a non-diplomatic. The diplomatic way to answer this is, and I truly believe this because I've done some research into like education systems. There's really no discernible difference between the value and the content of the education that you gain from an Ivy League versus a state school. And I think Jordan Peterson said this in one of his videos, and I really liked what he said. He said all of the value proposition of an Ivy League is given to students before they enter the Ivy League, before they step foot on campus. And what I mean by that is the actual admissions process. Why are Ivy Leagues like highly valuable? It's because we're basically the top 1% of students that apply, right? When BCG hires me, why, or McKinsey hires other folks, it's because, oh, they got into Cornell, so they're already within the top 1% of something. So it's a pretty good bet that we should make Cornell a target school because we're dealing with the top 1%, right?
Yeah.
So think about that. The actual value of the education system isn't different between Cornell and a state school. That's the diplomatic answer. The non-diplomatic answer, in my own personal opinion, is, you know, the analogy that I gave you about Cornell being an extremely diverse place per square inch.
Yeah.
The, let's say, quality of the diversity, the depth of thought, the depth of knowledge that you'll get from all those students within that area, in my opinion, is more at a place like Cornell, at a place like Harvard, at a place like Yale, and so forth, compared to maybe a state school.
Yeah.
And terms and conditions apply. Maybe that's not true, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, kind of moving on towards that, I feel like I've seen you around in my classes, and for those of you who don't know, I'm in the Dyson School of Business here at Cornell. Armaan is in the hotel school, but I see him constantly in my school for some reason when he's not like in my school. So what is that like, just kind of being, I guess, a mentor, a role model in another school that you're not in? How is that? How did you get there? Like, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah. All fair questions. Let me put it this way. I didn't come out thinking, oh, I want to be like attractive to Dyson School students, or I want close connections with the Dyson School.
Yeah.
The fact is that when I was developing the content for the consulting workshop, people who are hearing this right now might not know what that means, but maybe we'll get into it later on. But basically, when I was thinking, how do I give back to students? The fact is that professors from the Dyson School were so open to me leading lectures and leading workshops within their classes. That's something that I found was tremendous about Dyson. Really, really cool that professors are open to seniors and juniors leading workshops and coming in and speaking in their classes. Not to say that that isn't present in other schools, but why I think you find me in Dyson more often is because simply like your student demographic is so interested in consulting, and I happen to be someone who's comfortable speaking about consulting.
Yeah.
And so that's why Dyson and Hotel seem to be the schools that are most open to me leading workshops. But to the second half of your question about how that is, man, it is so interesting. Like, at the end of the day, I'm speaking as if I'm like this 40-year-old, but the truth is like a lot of the advice that I'm giving, that I'm speaking about on this podcast, which is like deepening your thought, broadening your network, I'm doing that as well, right?
Yeah.
This, doing this or doing, teaching the consulting class, that's my way of like learning or making connections with people like yourself, because I feel like you're probably going to be a world-changing business owner, and I want to know a world-changing business owner when in 10 years this time.
Yeah.
And so that's my way of making those connections, deepening those connections. And so it's been cool. It's been really fun. I didn't expect to be giving lectures to halls full of 50, 100 people, but it's been really cool.
Did you know that you wanted to teach like a class or kind of give like a crash course on consulting like when you came into Cornell?
Absolutely not. Definitely not. So over the past 2 years, I changed my bucket list, and one of the items on my bucket list, and I you saw this on my Instagram post, it's like teach a class in sneakers. I know it sounds really corny, but I saw a video. I saw a video not too long ago about, I think it was Mark Zuckerberg teaching a Harvard class as a senior.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, man, I mean, that is also Mark Zuckerberg, so I get it. But I was like, dude, this is so cool, and he looks so sick, and I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was like, I want to teach a class, and I started developing content, to lead workshops and classes and all of that. But then, I actually found that I really love teaching.
Yeah.
Like, I really like the aspect of, like, trying to explain a concept to someone and then their face is lighting up because they actually understood something. I understand now why professors do it, because there's this like spark, and it's super cool to be on the receiving end of that. But yeah, I had no conceivable thought that I would do this as a senior in college. No way.
Yeah, no, that's definitely awesome, and congrats to you on checking that off the bucket list. That's
thank you.
Huge thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess moving on towards you're giving crash courses on consulting and everything. So, do you mind giving the viewers and the listeners a little bit about this crash course into consulting? Like, how do you get into one of these like MBB firms? How do you what are the secrets to this?
That's a good question. That's a good question. This podcast might become a whole the whole season. No, but okay, so the reason why I'm even so passionate about something as odd as like a consulting crash course is because consulting is basically like business problem solving.
Mm.
And in my opinion, not that I've, actually worked at BCG yet, but I can pretty confidently say the exposure you get as a consultant right out of college, as a 21-year-old pitching to CEOs, working on business problems for Fortune 500 clients as a 22-year-old, 21-year-old, that's not something you get too often.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I feel like I want to be able to enable other Cornell students to discover consulting and then hopefully get into consulting pretty early on, because I think it's an extremely unique career path to take, and it's not leading you down a wrong direction, because you can be a consultant for 1.5 years, decide you hate business, and then go and go and meditate in a forest, or you can go become a musician, or you can do anything. Unlike a lot of other career paths, there's a lot of flexibility when you exit from consulting, which is why I like it so much. To the second half of your question about how to break into, let's say, a top firm like MBB, McKinsey, Bain, or BCG.
Yeah.
If I had a formula, I would be really rich right now.
Yeah.
I don't have a formula, but I think it's a couple things. It's a couple different things. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So,
that's fine. It's okay. We're chilling.
What's up?
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to actually breaking into consulting, like people say, number one, I think fail fast. Fail fast is a terminology that I used to use with my startup. It's a terminology that I use when I teach consulting courses also. Failing fast is literally the single most important thing you can do, because when you start preparing for consulting, you'll realize that there's like these things like the case interview and making your resume good and networking that become challenging at times. And you'll start failing, and you'll feel bogged down by how much there is to do within the 4 to 6 months before you press submit on the application page. So failing fast will allow you to be like, hey, you know what? I understand that there's going to be obstacles in the way. They're not going to hinder me from actually getting the outcome, which is getting an offer from a firm.
Mm-hmm.
And so get failure out of the way. I feel like Cornell students, out of most people, they hate failing, and they think failing's bad. I love failing, because if you fail, there's like nothing else to do. You can only succeed afterwards, and you gain a lot of information. So number one, fail fast and just be okay with failing. The second is be early and intentional. The reason why I said 4 to 6 months before the interview is because it is extremely important for you to know 6 months, hopefully more in advance, that you want to do consulting, and start preparing 6 months and more in advance. I know it sounds like a lot of time. It is. But in order to succeed, because of how competitive it is and because of the nature of the case interview, it is extremely important for someone to put in the work 6 months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing I would say is be yourself, because everyone has this idea that if I want to be a consultant, I have to get into McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, and like if I don't, my life is over, and I'm actually not a real consultant, which is like absolutely not true. Everyone, when I gave these courses, everyone looked at me like, this guy only applied to McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Wow, he must be so great. That's not true. I'm an international student, and so those 3 firms are the only ones that sponsor my visa, my work visa.
Yeah.
And so when it came to my recruiting process, I could only apply to McKinsey, Bain, and BCG.
Yeah.
I was extremely lucky that I got offers from those firms, but if I had the option, I would love to work at a smaller consulting firm or a consulting arm within a bigger company. Don't restrict yourself to thinking, oh, I need MBB or I'm done. All of the firms have their unique selling points and unique advantages and pros and cons. So just be okay with that, but be yourself. And if you don't get an offer from McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, those firms aren't a fit for you as much as you maybe aren't a fit for those firms.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that bog you down. And there's always entry points after undergrad. You can do an MBA and then go to McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. So those 3 points, I know I spoke a lot, but those 3 points are the ones that I would recommend.
Yeah, no, that's definitely really good advice for me as well. I'm trying to pursue a career in consulting out of university too. So that's definitely advice that I would take as well. But kind of going back a bit, I should have asked this prior to the question, but why consulting? Like, why not banking? Because I feel like there's in sense of exit opportunities, there are a lot of exit opportunities for banking as well, especially for impact investing as well. So why aren't you pursuing a career in banking instead of like you're doing consulting, right?
Yeah. I wish there was like a smart an answer to this that made me sound smart. The truth is there's not. This is my reasoning, okay?
Yeah.
So when I was 17, my mom was on the phone with a consultant once, and when she cut the call, I asked her who are you speaking with, and she said, oh, I'm speaking with this consultant from McKinsey. He's one of the smartest people I've spoken to, and my God, like our company is paying him like $2,000 an hour for his services. And as a 17-year-old, I was like, wait, so my mom, who I respect a lot, respects this dude a lot. He seems smart. He seems really cool. He was wearing a suit, and he's charging $2,000 an hour. Consulting sounds sick. So consulting sounds awesome. So I came into college with this perspective of like, oh, consulting sounds so cool, and you look like someone from a TV show if you're a consultant. And then that's why, not that's why, but that's one of the reasons why I applied to consulting clubs on campus, and there's this whole rage about getting into a consulting club.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, no, for better, obviously, I got into a consulting club. And that's been tremendously helpful in ways that I can't even think of or imagine. But almost like by default, my path right before college and then through the whole of college was more like consulting, was on the side of consulting.
Yeah.
I just simply wasn't exposed as much to banking. My mentors on campus, and what I mean by mentors are upperclassmen.
Yeah.
They were pretty much all consultants, and so I automatically was in the consulting, like consulting home base and not the banking home base. That's
so
why.
You never like dabbled your feet into banking at all.
Like,
what if like the world out there for banking is like so vast and like, it's like totally for you and like you never explored it, right? So
the cool thing is about consulting is that you can get exposure to the investment banking life by doing like a private equity due diligence project.
Yeah.
I know I'm speaking a lot of weird words right now, but basically as a consultant, you can choose to do a stint in investment banking, and you can use that as a litmus test for whether you like investment banking. If I, a year from now, decide, wait, I did like an investment banking or private equity project and I really like that, I can just exit to investment banking and I can switch industries as a whole. That's one of the advantages about why consulting is attractive. When it came to actually exploring investment banking, and again, some of the smartest people on campus I know are going into investment banking, so in no way is this like derogatory, but all I heard was like, you work 100-hour weeks, you get paid a lot of money, but you're basically working on Excel behind a desk the whole day. I'm not saying consulting is vastly different, but for some reason I just got turned off from banking. Having said that, the caveat with that is I am simply not knowledgeable enough about banking to have a educated opinion on it. A lot of people who've been successful, who are going to be successful, including my friends, are going into investment banking, and like God bless them.
Yeah.
I just don't see myself as someone who's like too interested in investment banking, but that
Yeah.
could change a year from now.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree on that. I am the same in that regard, where I don't think banking is for me. I don't think I can work, just behind a desk, like just making like models and stuff like that. That is
Yeah.
not my vibe. So
Yeah.
can't do that. But speaking more about your entrepreneurship side, what advice would you give to like someone who is trying to pursue a career in entrepreneurship?
So before I say anything, I want to say that all of what I'm about to say is intellectual property from like Y Combinator videos and
Okay,
like
yeah.
YouTube videos and my mentors. So all due credit goes to them.
Yeah.
Number one, fail fast.
Okay.
and I've already explained that. Number two, way more important than the idea is the co-founding team that is going to drive the idea forward. I am willing to bet that everyone in this room has thought of at least 2 or 3 million potential billion-dollar ideas today already. I know that sounds odd, but it's true. The frequency and propensity of us as human beings to think of good ideas is actually more than we think. Why startups fail is not because the idea wasn't the most novel idea. It's because most likely there's some issues or obstacles that arise with the co-founders themselves. And so if you're going into starting up, make sure that your co-founder / team of co-founders are people that you want to go to war with, that are people you don't mind being in bed with, that people you want to marry, people you don't mind spending 4 days together, 96 hours in sleeping bags with, because more likely than not, you're going to be in those situations, and you don't want to be in those situations with people you even dislike slightly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number two. Like, your co-founder is simply the most important element to get right when you start up. And the third thing is approach. Everyone thinks starting up or entrepreneurship is glamorous, and I'm not in a position to say yes or no because I'm like very new to entrepreneurship myself.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurship is one of the career paths where you have 40,000 obstacles on a daily basis, and there's no senior manager to help, take off the load, take some of the weight off of you.
Yeah.
You are accountable for everything end to end. And so just be okay with that. And with those three things, you should be fine.
Cool. No, that's definitely awesome advice. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur myself, so great advice for someone that is trying to do that. But I guess moving on, we're gonna enter our rapid round. I have prepared some questions. It's kind of this or that questions. So we're starting off very easy, and then we'll kind of move into more challenging questions. But kind of give a quick response, give an explanation or not. It doesn't really matter. But let's try to run through these. First question: dogs or cats?
Dogs, absolutely dogs. Had dogs my whole life.
Okay.
They're man's best friend.
Okay, cool. Second question: people or nature?
People. I've had the wisest conversations I could ever have at Cornell.
Yeah.
Nature's awesome, but sometimes that gets lonely, and you need people. Human beings are social animals. So.
Okay, very fair, very fair. Next question: winning the lottery or finding your soulmate?
Finding your soulmate.
Okay.
I'm a hopeless romantic. And like, I'm okay with not having like $1 billion, but I'm not okay with not hopefully finding my soulmate. Like, I don't know if the soulmate concept exists, but like, if it does, I am all for it.
Me too. Okay, cool. Being the smartest person in the world or the richest person in the world?
Being the richest person in the world, because I can just enable all the smartest people in the world to do things that they love, and that is cool to me.
That's facts. Okay, cool. Seeing the future or changing the past?
Seeing the future. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I've seen way too many Joe Rogan videos.
Yeah.
And I know that like changing the past has like dire consequences, or potentially has dire consequences. I don't want to mess with that, so seeing the future might be nice. Okay,
cool. Travel the world or stay in the same place but having like an empire there?
Travel the world.
Okay.
My dad and mom made it a point, and I was very lucky for this, to take me to new countries almost every year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that did so much for me in terms of like gaining knowledge and learning about new cultures, and I don't want to trade that off.
Fair, very fair. Weekends or holidays?
Holidays.
Okay.
Holidays. I get, like, during weekends, I either do work or think, oh, it's Sunday, this sucks. Monday's tomorrow. So I usually take holidays as the time to really relax.
Okay, cool. Passion or stability?
Toughest one of the day. Passion, because passion is probably a bigger driver to success than something that's more stable, because passion will allow you to just keep that fire within you alive, and that fire is what leads you to keep working on something.
Yeah.
So passion.
Okay, this one's gonna be hard. Saving the world or making a lot of money?
Yeah, those aren't mutually exclusive.
It's true.
Making a lot of money.
Okay.
I know that's counter. I know that's not an answer many people would say or expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I think making a lot of money enables you to be in a position to, like, not save the world, but contribute to good things and create social impact. I don't want to be someone who saves the world. I am not even close to knowing what that entails.
Yeah.
But I know I'd be able to do some good things if I had a lot of money. And having a lot of money is nice because then you're not bogged down or constrained by like your job or stability or where to eat your next meal from. So
yeah,
that'd be nice.
That's very fair. And last one, very fun one to round off everything. Would you rather have a big party or a small gathering?
Ooh, big party actually.
Okay.
I'm actually not the most extro. I'm not really. I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
I'm actually more introvertish. My whole life I've pretty much had a core group of 5 to 6 friends.
Okay.
We usually do small things at each other's houses, and that was always my thing in high school and even in college. But being a senior now, being a spring senior, I'm in that mode of like nostalgia. I want to meet everyone I've had a conversation with at Cornell.
Yeah.
All my freshman friends, so a big party at this point in my life would be awesome.
So you want some like Great Gatsby moment, right?
Yeah, might as well to cap it off.
Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our 3rd episode of the 2nd season of the podcast. I'd like to thank you again, Armaan, for joining us today. If anything within this podcast resonated with you in any way, feel free to share it across all social media platforms and tag at detour.podcast. If you'd like to follow Armaan's journey, do you have like a social media or anything that they can reach out to you at?
Definitely hit me up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I check LinkedIn more than I check Instagram.
Okay.
So if you just search Armaan Goyal on LinkedIn, you will find me. My Instagram, I think, is armaan.gyl.
Okay.
So feel free to reach out on both.
Gotcha. Well, again, thank you everyone for your continuous love and support. I'm your host, Gary Fan, and I'll see you guys next time.